a phoenix of pop who refuses to fade. She's pushed through nearly 7 decades without letting the spotlight slip. From a child left at an orphanage with torn shoes held together by rubber bands to the architect of an empire worth more than $360 million, she has outlasted everyone. She bent time to her will, turning poverty into platinum, heartbreak into history, and illness into legacy. She gave us "I Got You, Babe," and the world believed for the first time. She gave us "Believe," and the world has never stopped believing. Her numbers astonish. More than 100 million records sold worldwide, a long-running Las Vegas residency grossing over $250 million, tours that shattered records and left her knees so swollen she needed injections backstage just to perform. She owns an Italian Renaissance-inspired mansion in Malibu, set high above the Pacific and worth tens of millions, with massive bronze doors, cool marble floors, and windows framing an endless ocean. Each sunset a reminder of a life that would not surrender. Across Beverly Hills stand more multi-million-dollar homes, each one a new chapter in reinvention. In the garage, Rolls-Royces under soft lights, a Porsche 911 that still purr like a restless heart, a Cadillac Escalade that has carried triumph and grief in equal measure. But this isn't a story about wealth, it's about its price. Every dollar bears a scar. Every property and car quietly testifies to nights she stood on stage with trembling legs, 2 notes sung while her chest felt tight with illness, 2 collapses behind the curtain while glittering gowns covered bruises. Behind the fireworks were hours of silence and shallow breaths, fighting her own body so the audience wouldn't see her falter. And now, as her family stands before that towering legacy, they don't see asset. They see a woman, a mother whose love looked like sacrifice, an artist who poured blood and tears into every chorus, a person who fell and chose to rise. If her voice ever carried you through pain, leave a tribute below. Even a single like is a whispered thank you for the voice that lifted us when we could not stand. Cher's earliest memories weren't lullabies or soft embraces, but the weight of poverty pressing against her ribs, nights without comfort, and the fear she belonged nowhere. Born May 20th, 1946, in El Centro, California, she entered a world already cracked. Her mother, Georgia Holt, a singer with a dreamer's heart, still stood behind a donut counter in Fresno to make rent. Her father, John Sarkeesian, an Armenian-American truck driver, charming but ruthless, vanished almost as quickly as he appeared. Their impulsive marriage dissolved before Cher could form her first words, leaving fragments in place of family, a surname that slipped away, a father who became a ghost, a childhood stained by instability. Georgia's life spun through marriages, 7 in all, some repeated, each man bringing promises that crumbled. Cher wasn't alone. She had an older half-sister, Gorgon, who shared the same mother. Together, they watched their mother search for something that wouldn't break. At just 2 years old, in a decision born of necessity rather than cruelty, Georgia left Cher at a Catholic orphanage. Picture it, a toddler with wide, questioning eyes, clutching strangers' hands as her mother walked away. From there, Cher bounced between her grandparents' modest home, rented rooms that smelled of dust, and shelters where nothing belonged to her. She remembers huddling under thin blankets, winter air sliding through wall cracks, and the shame of wearing clothes so worn they drew whispers at school. Once she looped rubber bands around the flapping soles of ruined shoes just to make it through the day. Her life whiplashed between extremes, 1 week surviving on canned beans, the next briefly dropped into Beverly Hills when her mother chased opportunity with yet another husband. These contrasts didn't dazzle, they divided. In classrooms, dyslexia and an undiagnosed learning disorder were misread as laziness. Teachers mistook quiet for defiance. While other girls dreamed of dancers, Cher pictured rhinestones and spotlights, imagining a stage where she would never be invisible again. At 16, hunger for escape outran shame. She left school, stuffed a small suitcase with clothes and impossible dreams, and took a bus to Los Angeles. Early 1960s LA was paved with broken promises, but it offered one lifeline: Sonny Bono. At first, he was simply a couch to sleep on. Convenience turned to survival, then partnership, then a force that defied odds. In 1965, their voices braided together on "I Got You, Babe," and the world finally listened. The song didn't just make them famous, it pulled her from the abyss of invisibility. Fame is fickle. Early hits faded, their films flopped, and the light cooled. To endure, they pivoted to smoky Las Vegas rooms where sequins glittered under cheap neon. Night after night, Cher sang to survive, her voice carrying the ache of the orphanage, the fear of split shoes, the relentless craving for permanence. Every note was a brick for the empire she would build. not one born of privilege, but forged from wounds. By the late 1960s, momentum slipped. Barely in her 20s, Cher and Sonny faced a brutal truth. Time, money, and momentum were running out. Reinventing themselves as a nightclub act wasn't glamour. It was oxygen. Quick banter, sharp comedy, undeniable chemistry became their currency. At the center stood Cher Drywit cutting the haze. Stage presence electric. From desperation came rebirth. By 1971, the Sonny and Cher comedy hour landed on television, beaming into millions of homes. For audiences, it looked like triumph. For Cher, 25 at the time, it was survival dressed in sequins. Behind the laughs, things unraveled. Their marriage, held together more by legacy than love, cracked. They smiled for cameras as silence seeped into their home. By 1974, it broke. Cher filed for divorce. In 1975, both their marriage and partnership collapsed. Financially exposed, she discovered she had far less than she'd earned. At 29, she mourned her first great love. While staring into the pit of near ruin, she refused to vanish. In 1975, she launched Cher her own show. Industry whispers predicted failure without Sonny. Instead, she soared. Sequins sparkled. Laughter roared. The hit proved she was never anyone's half. Sonny's solo project fizzled within a season, a symbolic end to their shared stardom. The next years were merciless. Albums stars, 1975, I'd Rather Believe in You, 1976, Cherished, 1977, sank with little notice. Then came Greg Mann, the southern rock legend, battling his own demons. In June 1975, just 3 days after her divorce was final, Cher married him. Within 9 days, chaos overwhelmed them. They split, reconciled, fought, tried again. When she briefly reunited with Sonny in 1976, Greg filed for divorce until fate intervened. Cher was pregnant. Their son, Elijah Blue, born July 1976, bound them for a time. By 1978, the marriage ended for good. By 32, she had weathered 2 divorces, a shattered partnership, and public doubt. Still, she didn't yield. As the 1970s closed, radio moved on. Some wrote her off. She gambled. Signing with Casablanca Records in 1978, she stepped into a disco world of mirror balls and basslines. Reinvention wrapped in sequins. The bet paid off. Take Me Home 1979 went gold, selling over 500,000 copies in the US. A lifeline worth hundreds of thousands when accounts ran thin. The follow-up Prisoner faltered. Undeterred, she stripped away the glitter and formed the rock band Black Rose with guitarist Les Dudek in 1980. Clubs were sweaty, honest, and unforgiving. The album arrived with no clear signal of her star power, and by 1982 the music quieted. The band dissolved and the romance ended. Most would have stopped. Cher, 36, labeled a relic, chose the scariest path. Start over as an actor. Silkwood 1983 introduced audiences to Dolly Pelican, a wounded soul played without vanity. The film exceeded $35 million at the box office, won her a Golden Globe and her first Oscar nomination, and reopened Hollywood's doors. Then came Mask 1985, The Witches of Eastwick, 1987, Suspect 1987, Six-Figure Checks, Credibility, and Footing. And in 1987, Moonrack as Loretta Castorine. 41-year-old Cher was luminous, ordinary, unforgettable. The film neared $100 million worldwide. In 1988, she lifted the Academy Award for Best Actress. It wasn't just a win, it was vindication. After the 1988 Oscar, the world imagined she'd reached the summit, but trophies don't pay tomorrow's bills. In 1989, she returned to music with Heart of Stone, a defiant roar that sold over 4 million copies worldwide. If I Could Turn Back Time stormed the airwaves. Its leather-clad video, briefly banned by MTV, while royalties stabilized her life. She invested in a haven, a Malibu oceanfront estate, where crashing waves soothed the ache time left behind. The early 1990s were unkind. Albums cooled. Executives chased younger stars. By 1996, whispers were loud. She's finished. Money bled away through contracts and legal tangles. The Malibu home proved success, but fear of erasure haunted the halls. Then 1998, her final gamble. At 52, she recorded Believe. Some called it desperation. It detonated instead. 11 million albums sold, more than $100 million in revenue, and autotune etched into pop history. On the Do You Believe tour 1999, friends recalled her collapsing backstage. Ivy drips, bruises hidden under rhinestones, yet arena swelled, pushing receipts past 100 million. For fans, spectacle for Cher, survival disguised as glory. The 2002 farewell tour stretched to 2005, grossing more than 250 million, among the highest ever at the time. Each night, fireworks. Each morning, knees so inflamed she needed injections to stand. Diamonds glittered for the audience. Purple bruises glowed beneath. She kept singing, not from vanity, but because every city conquered tour.